Welcome to Day-to-Day Health, a podcast all about machine learning in medicine, brought to you by two University College London PhD students. Me, Florence.
And me, Davy.
And made possible by the Turing-Roche partnership.
Hello, and welcome to the first of three special episodes from Day-to-Day Health. This first one chronicles my attendance at AI UK, and the ones after that will cover the research that myself and Florence are doing for our respective PhD projects. As it happened, Florence couldn't make it to AI UK, so I was there representing our podcast, essentially, and I took with me a little handheld audio recorder with the idea of making an episode tentatively titled Voices from AI UK, which, if all has gone well, you're now listening to. This episode, apart from this very nice voiceover I'm recording now, is a little bit noisy, and this is due to the fact that there were roughly 1,000 attendees at the two-day AI UK conference. Editing Davy here, it was in fact over 2,000 attendees. And I was walking around with a handheld recorder. So I hope you will forgive me for some of the sound quality here. In this episode, I hope to give you an idea of what it's like to attend AI UK and give you an overview of what's on offer to see, do, learn, and an overview of some of the fascinating talks and booths on display. And as a bonus, I'm going to platform some of my fellow community scholars who were in attendance. So me and Florence are making a podcast, but we have 8 other community scholars making their own projects. So what is AI UK? AI UK is the Alan Turing Institute's annual conference on everything AI. This year, AI UK ran from the 19th to the 20th of March. It was held at the Queen Elizabeth II Centre in Westminster, London. And if I borrow some words off the website here, AI UK is the UK's national showcase of data science and artificial intelligence. Hosted by the Alan Turing Institute, AI UK 2024 was an in-depth exploration of how data science and AI can be used to solve real-world challenges. Our diverse programme was thematically structured around the latest innovations from across the AI ecosystem, with a broad range of interactive content covering the latest thinking on fundamental AI, digital twins, algorithmic bias, AI ethics, and much more. So I've been to a conference before, but I've never been to, I haven't been to a multi-day conference, and also I haven't been to one that is so absolutely enormous as AI UK. Like, it took over the entire of the Queen Elizabeth II Centre, and there were sort of maps of the floor plans and timetables and schedules and everything. And I actually sat down before I went and I made myself my own personal schedule of everything I wanted to sort of do and see. And I think I was very optimistic. I really scheduled a lot in for myself, and I got a lot out of it for sure. But I think next time I go to a conference, I might schedule in some coffee breaks or something, just so I'm not just massively overloading my brain the whole time. So, without further ado, let's go to AI UK.
Good morning. It is just after 9 o'clock on Tuesday the 19th of March. I am in the Queen Elizabeth II Conference Centre, which is right next to Westminster Abbey, and I'm here for AI UK, run by the Alan Turing Institute. I've maybe been a bit ambitious. I've got a really packed itinerary. I'm going to see how many talks and things I can get to. I'm really looking forward to my first workshop, which is going to be at 10 to 12. And then later today, I'm going to be doing a little vox pop, talking to people who are here at the conference, and basically just asking them about what cool stuff have they seen, what AI tech have they found interesting, cool, thought-provoking, maybe concerning. I feel like we have to try to be a little bit balanced with these types of things. Yeah, so we'll see what people have to say. And in the meantime, I might head over to our very own Turing-Roche collaboration booth, which at the moment is running an animated video made by our fellow community scholar Shafiq, and it looks absolutely incredible. It's really exciting getting to see what the other community scholars are producing. They're not all podcasts, folks. We've only got one podcast. So I'm here at the Turing-Roche partnership booth. It's a little bit loud. My goodness, I hope that you can hear what I'm saying or that you can understand what I'm saying. Good luck to future me editing this. But we've got up on the video screen now, we've got the different community activities that are going along, including the Slack channel, the workshops, the Knowledge Share series, which is really cool, and the Community Scholar Scheme, which of course me and Florence are a part of. We also have a little Pokemon-style mini-game thing on the iPad to sort of like delve into the theme of structured missingness.
We'll actually be talking about this more in our upcoming episodes on mine and Florence's research. But the Health Partnership actually has 3 aims, which are looking at structured missingness in heterogeneous data. So who is not being represented in the data, what is being missed out, and that's important because when we have large data sets and we're training AI in them, if certain like people's communities, what have you, are not represented in that data, then they're not going to be served by the outputs necessarily. There's also the research theme of predictive modelling in healthcare and how this can potentially help predict and improve patient outcomes. And then there's multimodal analysis, which if you've been listening to this podcast series, you've heard me and Florence talk about multimodal data a lot. So analysis looking at all different types of data, combining different types of data. And all of this is in service of improved health and well-being, hopefully, of patients. Anyway, back to the booth where I'm about to run into 2 very important people, Vicky and Sarah. Vicky is the manager of our Community Scholar Scheme, and Sarah, who is the head of technical innovation and shared platforms at Roche, is another lead on the Scholars Scheme. And this was in fact the first time I've met either of them in person.
So I'm at the booth right now with Vicky and Sarah. Do you guys just want to say hello?
Hello! I'm so excited to be on this very fancy looking mic.
And can you maybe say a tiny bit about what the booth is doing here at AI UK?
Yeah, we got lots of different bits. This is actually the first time we've externally engaged at a conference as a partnership. So
exciting.
We've got some fun stickers designed by one of our fellow community scholars. We've got a demo, a Pokemon demo, taking you through missing data.
Which I love. Who doesn't love Pokemon?
I know. Sarah, anything else to add?
We have a printout of all of our partnership publications. We've got a journal, AI and Precision Oncology, which myself and one of our postdocs sit on the editorial board for. We've got a heck of a promotion going for all of the community events that Vicky has been running very diligently, like our newsletter, our Slack workspace, our YouTube channel. And we're really stoked to promote all the great work of our scholars like this podcast.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
So, after meeting Vicky and Sarah, I was off on a mission to get to everything on my very packed schedule.
So just an update, it is now about 3:30. Gosh, I have seen so many things. So 10 to 12 was a workshop on resilient and sustainable cities. Then we had improving disease detection on the future stage. That was absolutely fascinating, and what was super cool about it is it touched on basically all of the points that me and Florence have recently touched on our episodes in AI in hospitals, and a little bit on the AI in wearables and things like that. I saw a little bit about global AI ethics, which is the Turing-UNESCO partnership, their observatory. And then a really interesting, snappy presentation on digital twins used for cardiac health. And now it's time to get some more people's opinions on cool stuff that they've seen at AI UK.
In fact, on day 1, I mostly spoke to community scholars because I had so many talks to see and, all right, I was a bit nervous about just walking up and asking to interview people. So, enter the community scholars. Well, some of them.
So it is now midday on the first day of AI UK. I have availed myself of some of the lovely free grub, and I'm on 3 cups of coffee so far, so really making the most of my ticket. And now I happen to be in a little corner here, huddled with some of the other Turing-Roche community scholars, and I'm just going to ask some people what they've seen, what's cool, what's thought-provoking. Can you introduce yourself and just say very quickly something that you've seen today?
So the voice you're about to hear is Zina Sharwa, who is one of our fellow community scholars. She's actually from UCL as well. And she, for her project, is helping to develop a section on data missingness in the Turing Way handbook.
Hi, I'm Zina. I'm a PhD student at UCL in the medical imaging CDT. So I've been kind of wandering around. There's a lot to see. I'm really surprised with who's actually at this conference. So in the opening ceremony, an MP was giving a really important talk on how the government is taking steps in investing in AI, which is really interesting to hear about. And then I went to a panel which was on diversity and inclusion in venture capital funds. And the panel was made up of someone from NatWest, someone from DeepMind, and someone from the British Bank. So it was super cool to hear the actual steps they're taking to increase diversity in how they manage their portfolios and the funds they give. But I was just kind of concerned in with AI and how it's evolving, it can kind of go either way in that it promotes equality and diversity, but also the way AI is implemented can do the opposite, where it kind of deepens inequalities that already exist. So it's really important to be careful with bias and how we use AI, who uses AI, who gets it first, etc.
That's always the thing with these technologies. They're only as unbiased as the people programming them in many cases. But that is absolutely fascinating that we've got so many different people from all different walks of life and industries and the government and everything. Very cool event that we've come to today. Yeah, for sure. Do you mind introducing yourself and saying something a little bit about what you've seen?
And the next voice you're going to hear is Xishuan Zhu, who is at the Institute of Cancer Research. And he is producing a short film or documentary that focuses on the triangular relationship among patients' clinical trial teams and translational researchers, with an aim to improving personalised clinical care.
I'm Xishuan. I'm a third-year PhD student at the Institute of Cancer Research. And there's this one really fantastic talk I saw this morning. It was about AI and art. And I saw the ZZ project and the team behind it, which is a deepfake drag show, which is currently exhibiting at the V&A. It was just fascinating seeing how imperfections in AI models can be used as art, because we're not just looking at the final products, we're also looking at in between how the AI is learning about stuff, how they create not realistic results, and how people can use that as an art project. And also they talked about the bias of the data sets in training AI models, where the majority of data is white, straight male, stuff like that, and then they talk about what about black transgender people, because if we input some new data into it, no matter how much you train on the AI model, they won't recognize these people because of the data we use to generate the models. So yeah, it's very insightful and it's very interesting. I love it. Amazing.
Yeah, no, my first thought is I've got to get myself to the V&A because that sounds like just a fantastic exhibition. But it's really interesting that we're looking at the ways that AI can sort of handle art and produce art, when also we have this sort of prevailing narrative of the moment of AI almost versus art or versus artists. So I think that's cool to take almost like a positive track of no, look what this technology can do and can produce, and here's how it's learning. And that definitely brings up the idea of, to lean on our Turing-Roche sort of partnership there, it does bring up the idea of that structured missingness. Who is left out, who is therefore not represented, and how do we feed enough sort of diverse data into these algorithms to make them representative of humans as a whole, as opposed to a very small subset. Thank you both for talking to me today. Enjoy the rest of AI UK.
So the next voice you're going to hear is Jack Breen from the University of Leeds, whose project involves developing a chapter for the Turing Way Handbook regarding reducing risks of bias and improving the completeness of reporting in research.
Can you tell me your name, first of all?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jack Breen from the University of Leeds.
And can you tell me something cool that you've seen today at AI UK?
So earlier this morning there was a great session on AI in art. So there was a short drag show, there was people presenting their art and how they've used sort of computers, algorithms and AI in that space. And that was something I'd never seen before, so that was something that was really exciting to see.
I am wicked jealous because I went to a workshop and the workshop was good, but so many people have said you should have seen this AI art drag show, and I'm like, yeah, I probably should have. Huh? Thank you.
So, we've heard from some of the other community scholars, and I will say it was really, really nice to be able to meet up with my fellow community scholars because we're spread out all across the country, really. So it was nice to actually meet everyone, not just like on a Zoom screen. But now, let's move into day 2, where, to be fair, I did still see a lot of talks, but I made some time and, got up my nerve to talk to some researchers. So allow me to take you right up to the booths and hear from the researchers themselves. Actually, to start with, let me recount this very cool hands-on display I got to have a play with.
So something cool that I've just seen, literally right next to the Turing-Roche Community Health Partnership stand, is a display by Emmanuel Nunez Sardinia. He is a PhD student in healthcare robotics at Bristol Robotics Laboratory. And he had a very in-demand stand because he is displaying a piece of tech that uses eye movement, eye motion to control a robotic arm. So I just had the special glasses put on my face, and I've just moved an arm around to go down and pick up a lollipop. Emmanuel was controlling the grip of the robot, but I was controlling all of the movements, so side to side, up and down, front to back, and it was very cool. I must say it's a little difficult because if you have to look at a sort of neutral point to make it stop. So I would be moving it to the side and then suddenly be like, oh, I need it to stop there. And, you flick to the other arrow and it's like, oh, no, now it's going back. But I was really impressed by how sophisticated the movements were. And that is definitely one of the coolest things that I have seen here today. Seen a booth here that I definitely want to speak to more a bit later. This is looking at deepfakes, robotics and edge AI. Talking to machines, deepfakes, vulnerabilities, robotics and edge AI. Got a very sort of uncanny valley picture of a human head on the screen at the moment. So if you could maybe introduce yourself briefly and then let me know what the deal is on these deepfakes.
Of course. So my name's Richard Waters. I'm lead research data scientist at DARE in the Alan Turing Institute. And so DARE are the Defence AI Research Centre. So we're funded by DSTL in the UK, so this is the Defence Science Technology Labs. So we're responsible for using AI to help protect the UK. We carry out research, and our demo here is around talking to machines. It's about understanding some of the issues that motivate our research, some of the vulnerabilities and areas where AI models can be used or abused.
Well, I've heard a lot in the news about deepfakes becoming more and more of an issue as it gets more sophisticated and it's more difficult to sort of tell these things apart. But I think I've seen that more on a personal level, like celebrities and things being impersonated, and not necessarily on a national defence level.
Yeah.
But obviously now I come to think about it, that's quite a scary new area that we might be going into.
I think the wide use of sophisticated foundation AI models, generative AI, it's only going to have an increasing use in kind of deception, disinformation. It's something that we are going to have to deal with, and so our team at the Alan Turing Institute is focusing on ways to understand and then to mitigate or defend against those techniques.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for that little snippet. That's really helpful. And then right next door to the partnership booth, we've got a booth on cardiac digital twins. Tell me your name and then just explain a little bit about the project and talk about what your booth is about, but also if you could describe the fact that you're 3D printing a literal heart. I think that's extremely cool.
So I'm Tiffany Batiste. I'm with the Cardiac Electromechanics Research Group. So we're based at Imperial, and as a group we try to create digital twins of the heart. So we start from MRI scans or CT scans, and we get our patient-specific heart geometry. And right now we have some live printing of our heart model. So we have a 3D printed real-size heart.
And you said this has been going on since about this morning, so we're several hours in.
So we are maybe 5 hours in with just 20 minutes left. and then we'll have a real-size heart that came from an actual patient.
That is absolutely fascinating. And you've got on the desk here, you've got a bunch of different hearts, different like shapes and sizes and things, which really shows the sort of the wide variety that human organs can come in.
Yeah. So it really underlines the need for personalized medicine, because we could see how much the hearts really vary from person to person.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. That is absolutely perfect. I'm seeing a cool thing here from the University of Exeter and the University of Sheffield, by the looks of things, titled Idiomaticity in Language Processing, the Acid Test for Understanding. So it's looking at how AI interpret tons of phrases. So they've got, I'm feeling under the weather, the person on a wild goose chase, and you can see that the AI has just sort of made a flying goose picture. Same for under the weather, there's a person sort of burying their head in a towel while it rains on them. It's actually quite expressive. It's not right by any means, but it's very interesting.
So, hi, I'm Tom Pickard. I'm a PhD student at the University of Sheffield, and we've got a little group of us that are working on multi-word expressions in various forms in natural language processing. So humans employ lots of language where we don't literally mean what we say as we say it. It's incredibly common. We're in the medical health section of the sort of stand today. So if you imagine in a medical context, if I was interacting with a chatbot or something that was my sort of first point of contact for a mental health issue that I might be having or something like that, I would need it to understand accurately and have a good representation of what I meant when I said I'm feeling under the weather, or I'm feeling a bit down in the dumps, or I'm feeling over the moon today. If I was happy that day, I would need it to kind of process that accurately. And currently, large language models are okay, but not great at this for English. So I've got a test over here, a little game that people can come and play if they fancy it, where we can compare humans with the language models. And it gets about 75% of the labels right for just saying whether I'm using something literally or idiomatically in a given sentence, which is not bad.
I was going to say, that sounds quite
75's
good.
okay.
Particularly like sort of looking at some of the examples you got up on the screen there, where they're taking it very literally, and it's quite funny from a human perspective to see what the machine will spit out.
So on the screen what I've got is the outputs. If I just try and get an image generation model to give me a picture of the phrase, spilling the beans, whereas the text processing models like ChatGPT and all these sorts of things will do a better job than the image generators do for various reasons. I think the main reason is we as humans tend not to label figurative language, label images using figurative language, and they're trained on images with captions. So they kind of haven't had as much chance to learn about idioms. They're just not in the training data. But so the language models do a bit better. But they get to about 75% accuracy, pretty good. For English, for short sentences where the context is within a few words, like if you had a much longer term dependency where you needed to know that I was literally talking about hell from several sentences earlier when I meant the phrase when hell freezes over, literally. If I don't know, explained some video game I was playing where you had to go through hell and, I don't know, stop the demons freezing, whatever it was, some complicated scenario, the models will do a bit worse. And they will also do a lot worse in languages other than English, where they've had a lot less training data to work with. So as soon as you start talking about even something like Spanish or Chinese or Russian, where there's lots of that data, it's still 1 or 2 orders of magnitude less than is available for English. And because idiomatic expressions are all right in the tail of the frequency of language that we use, any individual expression is relatively rare. As soon as you start trying to do that with less common language, less well-resourced languages, it suddenly gets really difficult.
So that 75%
will
right
drop
down.
very quick. Absolutely. So hopefully we're trying to come up with ways to help mitigate that, or do a bit better with it. And also just kind of make sure everyone's aware that these problems exist and that they are things we should all be thinking about when we're building interfaces and deploying these sorts of models into various actual solutions in the real world.
Well, that is absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for speaking with me and talking me through
You're very
that.
welcome.
So
Hi, my name is Sabiha Mohammed and I'm with the Ethics and Responsible Innovation team today at AI UK, and our stall is everything about children and AI, and we showcase some of the projects that we're doing, specifically our work up in Scotland where we're working closely with 4 different schools to engage children directly on AI to hear what do they think, what do they feel, what's important to them.
No, that's fascinating because kids these days are going to be growing up in a world where AI is sort of everywhere, and you see lots of sort of things on, like, I don't know, AI generated YouTube shows that the algorithm shows them, or AI generated kids books on Amazon. So is it sort of like teaching them how to safely and sensibly approach AI?
Yeah, exactly. That's a brilliant question. So we spoke directly to kids, and they have some really interesting things to say. I mean, honestly, they said, if you want to know something about children, all you have to do is just ask us. And when it came to things like, YouTube, we spoke to them about understanding the algorithm. How does the recommendation algorithms work? And we looked at baking a cake, and the same way you put ingredients in, and you get a cake at the end, is the same way as what goes into an algorithm and what comes out. And yeah, they completely understood these concepts, even though we think sometimes that these things are too complicated. I think we underestimate children, actually. So I would definitely say have a conversation with them and see, and you'll be surprised.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. That sounds like really important work that you're doing. So if you could just tell me your name and who you're with, and then I'll ask you a little bit about what you've got on display.
My name is Alexandra Brinturp. I'm a professor in digital manufacturing at the University of Cambridge. So we have 2 demos this year at AI UK. The first demo is looking at critical mineral supply chain traceability. So in the UK, globally really, we are very much dependent on rare earth minerals to achieve our electrification goals. So to produce more electric vehicles, but we simply don't know where our stuff comes from. So, and how dependent are we to different countries, to different companies for our production. So in this demo, what we have done is we have been showcasing our predictive algorithms for tracing supply chains. So typically what happens in a supply chain is that as a buyer, you know where you buy from, of course, but you don't know who those guys are buying from and who those guys are buying from. So firms lose traceability, and these networks become really complex, thousands and thousands of suppliers. So you need multiple data sources to be stitched together, and then we do that in this particular case using knowledge graphs. Then we run queries, privacy-preserving queries on them, so that confidential information isn't leaked, but you're able to answer questions like how much of my titanium supply is dependent on a particular geography. And you do that using natural language interfaces. So that's one demo.
That is actually quite a striking visualization you've got there of the data. You can see it like branching out all over the place in these like nexuses of different areas. Yeah, no, that's absolutely fascinating.
So each node there represents a company, and the size of the node is dependent on how many connections it has. So the bigger the node is, the more number of connections, so it's more central to the network and more important. And the different colors represent different geographies.
And then for your second demonstration, it looks like some sort of VR, AR system. I'm not very big up on these, so I probably don't have the lingo. But
it's an augmented reality system where what we have is a system where we are trying to predict ingredients in food products where they are not actually on the label. So I'll just show you one second. So these are peanut butter pretzels, and if you look at the label, you'll see that what is written is vegetable oil, but you don't really know whether palm oil is in there. It could be, and companies sometimes, if labeling regulations aren't strict enough, they might disguise names that are controversial or ingredients rather under multiple different names. So for palm oil in particular, we have more than 250 different names. So if a consumer wanted to track, they wouldn't really know. So we have been training machine learning algorithms on various different types of data sets on labels to predict whether the likelihood of a certain ingredient being in a certain product, so that consumers don't just have to rely on labels.
Yeah, that's fascinating. How does this tie in? The demonstration you've got where you've got the AR headset and someone's looking around, is it a kitchen?
Yeah, it's kind of an analysis lab, let's say. So you take so that's the peanut butter there, peanut butter pretzel. So you put it on the analysis machine, and that's when our machine learning model kicks in. So you're asking a question. Is there palm oil in it? And then it will give you the likelihood, so you can see it's being analyzed there now.
Oh yeah.
And then let's see what it says. Okay, so 99% probability that palm oil is in this product.
That is such a brilliant display because it's really drawing people in. But yeah, no, thank you so much for speaking with me. I really appreciate it. Can you just tell me who you are?
Oh, I'm Jack. I'm just a PhD student at the lab.
I'm also just a PhD student.
He is the PhD student, not just.
Maybe. Okay, so the idea behind this is you start with a neural network that is an image classifier, and it classifies the chicken as a chicken, right? So correctly. But we then can add an adversarial attack, in this case in the form of a patch or through any pixel, and it will cause the neural network to misclassify it.
Right, okay.
But it's not just about the patch, but also about the visibility of the patch. So how likely is a human to be able to detect that it's been modified or not? And the visibility, as you can see, we use an evolutionary algorithm to remove some of the noise within the patch to reduce to increase visibility and reduce the amount of noise. The idea behind this is really good in terms of it can find the vulnerable areas of the neural network, so where exactly it's classifying it. So like with the chicken, we see it's very vulnerable around the head of the chicken because that's where the attack is focused. So that shows us that the neural network maybe needs to have more varied training data because it's all focused around the head to classify it rather than using the tail or the feet or the body.
So is the idea to make the neural network sort of stronger and better at what it does, or is the idea to sort of reveal imagery that has been changed by AI, or what's the purpose here?
I think the main idea is more robustness of the neural network, to find out where the weaknesses are and where we can improve that neural network so that we can then make it better in the future, prevent those misclassifications. I think you mentioned before, it doesn't really matter for seeing a chicken, but if it's like a medical screening image, for example, then it could have really dire consequences, so you have to be really careful.
Well, that is absolutely fascinating. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I hope that's given you a little taste of the range of research on display at AI UK. Although I should maybe caveat that by saying this is probably not representative of the actual scope of the research on display, as this was guided by my own interest. It was a vibes-based approach to interviewing, shall we say. It was stuff that I thought was interesting, stuff I knew a little bit about, stuff that just grabbed my attention. So to wrap up, here's a final little clip of me reflecting on what I'd seen and learned at the conference.
The health data workshop was really interesting. A big thing I'm seeing coming up is that infrastructure is simply not ready to implement the type of AI we're talking about. Also, there was some discussion of the fact that AI should be seen as a sort of supporting algorithm as opposed to a wonder tool. And in fact, the AI itself needs rebranding because we've attributed all these sort of magical, mystical powers onto AI. And really, it's a tool, it's an aid more than anything else. One thing that I really think is worth discussing is the environmental impact of AI. It was something that was brought up briefly yesterday evening at the keynote speech. She was asked...
Editing Davy here. She is referring to Dame Angela McLean.
Basically about the environmental impact of AI and would it be, quite catastrophic? And her response was a little weak. I thought, in particular, I feel like the environmental impact seriously needs to be considered. We can't pin all of our hopes on AI and then allow AI to further ruin the climate. Just thoughts from day two.
I finished day 2 of AI UK by indulging in my love of sci-fi. So I attended the Writing Tomorrow talk with author Adrian Tchaikovsky, and then I joined the long table discussion on sci-fi, where we discussed potential sci-fi story topics in relation to emerging science and technology, and of course, AI. So that is a whirlwind tour, audio tour, through what it was like to attend AI UK and, you know, some of the incredible research that is currently being done across so many different sectors. I hope you found that interesting to listen to. It was a fantastic conference. I was really grateful to get to go. And thank you to the Turing-Roche Community Health Partnership for inviting us scholars along. And I suppose I'm not supposed to be advertising anything here, but I don't know, maybe I'll finish by saying, and if that sounds of interest to you, you could always look into getting a ticket for next year. All right, I don't really know how to wrap this one up. Thank you so much for listening, and tune in next time, because I believe next time we're going to be talking all about my PhD research. And after that, we've got an episode on Florence's research. So yeah, really hope I haven't turned you off with my terrible audio this episode. And hopefully we'll have you join us for the next 2. Bye.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Day-to-Day Health. If you've got any questions or comments, please DM us on our Instagram @DayTodayHealth or email us at daytodayhealth@gmail.com. Also, this podcast was created as part of the Turing-Roche Community Scholar Scheme, but all opinions expressed aren't those of the Alan Turing Institute or Roche. The show notes, transcripts and references to the research we talk about can be found at daytodayhealth.github.io. That does it for us, and we'll catch you next time.